is Kiara, and this is the first in the series on habit formation. So what are habits and why do we form them? I have a couple definitions for you. Webster's dictionary defines a habit as a settled tendency or usual manner of behavior. A habit can also be described as an acquired mode of behavior that has become nearly or completely involuntary, which is kind of what we're looking for here, right? Acquired. Outside of common use descriptions, we can also turn to the American Journal of Psychology, which in 1903 had this to say about it. I'm going to read it so I make sure that I get it right. Habit has been defined as more or less fixed way of thinking, willing, or feeling acquired through previous repetition of mental experience. Conditions favoring the development of habit are repetition, attention, intensity of the experience, and plasticity of the nervous system. Why do we form them? Well, according to Professor Wendy Wood of the University of Southern California, 40% of the time we're not thinking about what we're doing. Habits let us focus on other things. Willpower is a limited resource. When it runs out, we fall back on habits. According to an article in Forbes magazine, there are 3 main components that we can break a habit down into. 1, the cue or the trigger. This is where something in your internal or external environment triggers or cues you into taking a certain action. 2, the action. This is where you're actually doing the behavior that you either want to keep or get rid of. And 3, the reward. This is the part of the habit loop where your brain receives some kind of reward for doing the action. This reward could be something that you do for yourself consciously. Like when people study, they'll often have candy at the end of a chapter or something, and then at the end of the chapter, they eat the candy at the end of the chapter or page. Or for example, people who are addicted to caffeine, when they drink coffee, the caffeine hits their brain, gives them a nice little jitter, or a buzz, or whatever it is that coffee does, because I don't really drink coffee. But you get the point. Your brain is rewarded for something. So those 3 components are what form a habit and are what you need to really focus on when you want to make new habits. You have the cue, the action, and the reward. Pretty simple. So my goal here is to form new habits. But we've already talked about how Wendy Wood says that about 40% of what we're doing we're not actually thinking of. And so during that 40% of the time, we're actually operating on habits. If we already have so many habits that we're doing all the time, it shouldn't be so hard to create new habits, right? Going back to that Forbes article that I mentioned earlier, they list the 2 main reasons people fail to form new habits is 1, they don't understand the 3 components of the habit, which we've already laid out, so check there. And then 2, that's not 2. And then 2, they're trying to do too much at one time. So if everybody is failing at making their new habits, what can we do differently? Right? Needless to say, when you type into Google, how do you form habits, you're going to find a whole bunch of different sources. One of the very common misconceptions is that it takes, 21 days to form a new habit. That's actually not the case. Studies have shown that it can take anywhere between 15 and 254 days to form a new habit. There's no hard set rule on the time that it takes to form a habit. So if you just force yourself to do these actions every day, that's not necessarily going to work, because are you really going to stick with it for 15 to 254 days? Really? So I tried to narrow down some steps that I was able to find on different resources that I'm going to put down in the description box and figure out what you can do to make a habit stick. First of all, if you have any bad habits that are going to stop you from doing this new habit that you want to form, you have to figure out a way to completely derail that process using the same 3 steps that we had before, right? So you have the cue or the trigger, the action, and the reward. You have to just completely get rid of that bad habit that break. A really good way for you to do this is if you just moved to a new city or started a new job, you're already completely in a new environment and having to do a whole bunch of new processes, right? So your cues are already going to be messed up for that situation. But even if you're not in a completely new environment, ways that you can change things such as diet. If you're in the habit of having a scoop of ice cream after work and you want to stop that process, you can move the ice cream to the back of the freezer. That way it's not in the same place, so it's not as easy muscle memory to just open the freezer and grab the ice cream. That's one way you can do it. You can move snack foods to a different location in your cupboard or in your pantry. You're already used to walking to the pantry, opening up, and then you see, and because you're just automatically looking at where you always look, you're going to just go ahead and do it again. But if you move them, that changes the cue or the trigger, and you're less likely to start doing that habit again. Make sure that you don't have any bad habits that are going to hinder the new habit that you were trying to form. A way that you can figure this out is by doing a test run of the new habit that you're trying to form for a week, and see the things that get into your way and stop you from doing your habit. Things that, oh shoot, I got home, I immediately sat down in this chair and I'm watching TV for 2 hours when I thought that I was going to be writing my book for the last hour. Things like that. That was recommended by Wendy Wood. First things first, when you're starting a new habit, you want to make sure that you make that action, that step 2 in the loop, action, really small, like as small as possible. Make it so easy and small that it would be ridiculous for you not to do it every single week or day or whatever cycle you want this to go into. For example, my office actually offers yoga classes twice a week on Mondays and Wednesdays, and I've been going every Monday and Wednesday for the past month or so. I've been going because I know that I need to be healthy, but I also know that I am not the kind of person who wants to go to the gym or work out on my own, and I just don't much care for it. When I'm in that class setting, my pride sets in and I don't want to look like a fool in front of everybody, so I actually work out and I try my best. So I go twice a week, not every week. My office actually does offer some form of workout class every single day in the office, but I don't go to all of those. I just go on Mondays and Wednesdays because that's what's more manageable for me, and I think that's a good segue into a more active lifestyle. But that's not to say that I have gone every single Monday and Wednesday since I've determined that I want to do this. Today, actually, I didn't go to class because I was cold, and most people didn't even go into the office today because of the snow, and honestly, there's just a whole bunch of excuses of me not wanting to go to yoga today. And that's gonna happen. You are going to fall off the wagon, okay? You are not going to perform that action in your habit loop every single time you want to, because you're not gonna want to do it all the time. And that's fine, that's human nature. You are forming a habit, you don't already have the habits, that makes sense. But a very, very important rule in this process is never skip twice. So what that means in my example is, even though I missed yoga on Monday, I am not allowed to miss it on Wednesday. Because once you skip an action twice, you are basically giving yourself permission to skip it whenever you want. When you skip it once, it's a mistake and you have to kick your ass into gear, that way you'll do it the next time. You miss twice, you can shrug off 3 times. Why not? You could go back again and then be like, I don't really feel like doing it again this other time, but I'll come back later. It's fine. This is still my habit. No. Never miss twice. That's not to say that you cannot reform your habit if you have missed the action twice, but you're going to start all the way back from ground zero. Repetition is key in habit formation. Remember I said that it can take anywhere between 15 and 247 days to form a habit. That's a very, very long time. It's a long time for you to do something every single day, which you're not going to do, or every single week if that was your goal. No, that's too long of a time. And things come up in life where you have a totally valid reason for not doing that action. But while you are forming the habit, before it becomes second nature, you have to commit to that action. You have to make it a requirement, not something that you can shrug off. And that is why you cannot skip twice. Finally, there's that third step in the habit formation loop, the reward, the best part. This is so key to success. Positive reinforcement. Honestly, humans, we are just like animals. Pretend like you're training a dog. When they do something good, you give them a treat. You're trying to teach a dog how to shake. If they put their foot up, you give them a treat and you praise them, you clap for them, you rub their ears, and they're so happy because they did something right and they know that they did something right. It triggers something in their brain that they want to get that treat again. They have to put their paw up. Same thing for humans. Positive reinforcement works for us as well. For me with my yoga class that I've been doing is I don't eat lunch until after my yoga class. My reward is lunch. The one problem with this is, even if I don't go to yoga, I do still get my lunch. But I try to associate lunch with yoga, and I probably should add something a little bit more extra in there. But sometimes I punish myself and I only eat the gross parts of my lunch if I don't have yoga. So, negative reinforcement too. So yeah, make sure that you have some sort of reward for completing the action in your habit forming loop. Be that food, an activity that you get to do, or just watching TV, you know? You can make it a rule, if there's something that you want to do in your home, make it a rule that you are not allowed to watch TV, any form of television, until you complete the action. That could work in a great way because your cue would be arriving home. I think that's great. So those are my key tips to forming new habits. Alright, I think that covers it. I have gone on for quite a while. I will leave you now. This is Kiara saying bye. Alright guys, thank you for watching through to the end. I have just finished editing the video, so please excuse my tired look. The next video in this series will be me attempting to form the habit of writing every day through the inspiration of NaNoWriMo. If you don't know what that is, I'll have a link to the website down in the description. I'll also be posting a video sometime next week of a book club of sorts that I want to start. That way you guys can get in on the action. I want us all to start forming good, healthy habits to make our lives more active and productive and just more fulfilling, because I think a lot of us could use that.